one of the races, of course, we're watching closely is a race for governor. This morning, our new exclusive statewide poll shows Governor Ned Lamont has a commanding lead in both the primary and general elections.
All right, so Channel 3 is partnered with the CT Insider and Sacred Heart University for this poll. Your chief political reporter, Susan Raff, breaks down the numbers.
Early voting starts today in Connecticut, and according to our exclusive poll, Josh Elliott and Ryan Fazio have a lot of work to do to catch up to Governor Lamont.
Governor Lamont is in the driver's seat, headed into the primary against his Democratic challenger, Josh Elliott. Lamont has a strong advantage with 57.3%. Elliott just over 21%. However, there are still roughly 20% of undecided voters. Could something change? Gary Rose, a political professor at Sacred Heart University, doesn't think so. Rose says campaign ads have made a difference.
I know that Josh Elliott's been running a number of ads, very aggressive ads as well. But Lamont's ads, I believe, suggest a governor who has done well.
This exclusive Sacred Heart University WFSB CT Insider gubernatorial poll also breaks down the race between Lamont and Republican Ryan Fazio in the general election. This shows Lamont with a sizable margin over Fazio.
There's a lot in this poll, not just the numbers, but issues that are important and that matter to you, the voters. All week long, we'll be looking at the candidates and what voters are looking for when they go to the polls in the upcoming primary. Your chief political reporter, Susan Raff, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.